Will you tell Cynthia?
Can you hear me now? Wait.
It's weird because it's ours.
You said she could hear you.
Okay,
yeah.
so there we go. All right. You can hear me now and see us now? Yes.
That's what she said.
Okay, so now let's do share screen. Something happened in the share screen. So share screen. Where were you trying to go? This one here?
Yeah.
She can see as well.
Okay, can you hear and see?
Drink that whole.
Yes.
100%. So you drink
She's
coffee?
saying she can still hear.
I don't. Sugar free.
But that.
Caffeine?
I think they can. Somewhat, it was muted up here for some reason.
Yeah, that was weird. I don't know.
So I think we should be good.
Good to go?
Thank you.
All right.
All right, there we go.
I'm worried about you.
Look at this.
I don't know. Trying to convince me that it's not.
I asked her that. It's okay.
I mean, Fred, see, I do like the mini,
Oh.
I do like the little can.
And you pay for it. See, women always pay more for less. I don't understand it. All your drinks are nice and dainty and you're like,
Cincinnati.
sorry, we're taking up this time.
All right. Well, we'll get started. Thank you guys for coming and joining the Zoom meeting. So we're here to talk about drainage and basement waterproofing. The question is really, do I need basement waterproofing? And as realtors, that's the question for your clients, right? So just a little bit of background about myself. I spent probably 20 years working in the aerospace industry and worked a lot with engineers, classically trained in root cause analysis. So it's understanding what the root cause of problems are, right? Instead of putting a Band-Aid on, I focus on a solution that's going to work, right? Yeah, long term. So actually the Drain Designs company was started in North Carolina in like 2001. A very good friend of mine started the company down there. He's from Ohio. He started off his career as a mason. So very familiar with foundations, basements, things like that. I actually worked in the construction field right out of high school for a little bit, and I decided at that time I didn't like working outside in the winter. So I went to school. So did go to school, have actually 3 different degrees, and again worked in aerospace. I worked in program management, and last position that I had was on the executive board for Meggitt as well as GKN, working in contracts and program management. And then I made the decision. I got that entrepreneur bug. I want to go out and do this, and it's been a good time. I've enjoyed working with customers to resolve water issues, stormwater issues, wet basements, wet yards, things like that. So Drew is here with me as well. If you want to give a quick intro of you and
Yeah, I actually own Drain Designs in Cleveland. My partner and I, we started back in August of this year. I came from military. Actually, I've been in for 18 years. Chief Warrant Officer in the Ohio National Guard. I did construction right out of high school, grew up on a farm, so I was always around equipment and drainage and everything. Something I always enjoyed doing. Then obviously I went, and took my career path elsewhere, and kind of the same thing, the entrepreneur mindset. And my partner and I, he's an engineer, and here I am, military guy. So we blend nicely together, and it's something that we'll never look back on. We love being out there in the field and helping people, and like Kevin said, finding that root cause, is big for us.
Is this a franchise or is it local startup and everything?
yeah, so we both own franchises locally, but you're dealing with us. So we are owner operators. We go out and do the sales calls. We do have people that work with us to execute the projects, but we're there. I mean, so it's not like some of the larger companies where you're dealing with could be 10 different people, so.
Just they may not hear us, if we have a question, you might want to share that with them when you answer, because that's always a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Understood. Okay, so I want to start off first with a few questions, and I have a couple of hats that I'll give out. And then we'll get into following that. I like to get into what's in it for you, right? Why are you here other than maybe you had some interest in drainage, but more of how we might help you as a realtor. So we'll start with the first question. What do you think the average rainfall is in our area? And look at Akron, Canton. So in a year, inches, what do you think the average rainfall is? And it's a little bit higher in Cleveland, but we look at Akron, Canton. What would you think it is?
126
126, yeah?
for the year.
Yeah.
I'm going there now.
I don't think it's that high. It's true, the number.
I think 27, 28.
27, 28?
Yeah, I was actually gonna say like in the thirties, like 38 to 40. 38
Okay,
to 40 inches.
37. Yeah, there you go. We have a winner.
Thank you.
All right, so the next question then, and this goes into what we're going to talk about, right? When we go to look at a job, we're looking again at root causes. So we focus a lot on runoff. When you have stormwater runoff, you're looking at hard surfaces. And the question is, how many gallons of water do you think we get from solid surfaces runoff per inch of rain? So you can either look at how many gallons per square foot. We usually calculate per 1,000 square foot, right? Because you're looking at a roof or a driveway, or but you can give me a guess per square foot or per 1,000 square foot.
Runoff in inches.
Yeah, so like we get 1 inch of rain.
Just logically, like. There's a square on a roof,
Yeah,
it's 3 foot by 3 foot. And if you have like a 55 gallon drum
yeah,
in the, downspout to water your plants or whatever, that
Yeah.
fills up pretty quick, right?
right.
So. I bet you it's a gallon per square foot,
Okay.
I don't know.
Any
I'm
other
not good at
guesses?
math either.
It might be a little more than that.
Well,
Because I can fill a 55-gallon drum with rain from my roof and
one right?
well.
In a rain
2
barrel?
rains.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 rains.
I'm thinking somewhere
But you're thinking like
12 and 15.
a square for
I
a
don't-
roof is 3 foot. What?
I don't know. I give up.
A roofing square is 3 by 3, right?
I'm gonna say 20 gallons.
I don't know.
20 gallons per square foot per inch of rain?
15. That's what I'm thinking, because I'm thinking about the rain collectors and they don't fill up after one rain.
Yeah. Yeah, right?
Well, I'm asking. So you're saying you think it's what, a gallon per square foot?
Yeah.
And you're saying
12, 15.
12, 15?
I'm saying it's probably 18, 20.
Okay. So if we look at it for every square foot, it's about 3/5 of a gallon.
Oh.
So for every 1,000 square feet, you're at about 620 gallons, right? And so that's important that we look at it again, because we want to identify the root cause of all that water that's coming down around the foundation, right? So we have another winner. You're the close.
Yeah. There was way too much math in it, so you're talking.
It is, but it starts to make sense. I mean, once you,
I wouldn't think so. All I can do is think about the regulars don't fill up.
Gallon. Is what
Yeah.
you're saying, per
per square foot.
square foot.
Yeah, but you look at a roof, you're not looking at 1 square foot. I mean, you're looking at 1,000, 2,000, whatever. So that's what we calculate. So the last question that I have is maybe a little bit unfair, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. What do you think the number one root cause of wet basements is?
Gutter and downspouts.
Okay, what about gutters and downspouts?
That they aren't draining the water properly
Yard.
away from the house.
That's what I
Okay.
was thinking.
And that's, I would say 90%
Yeah.
plus
3
the
yards by
moisture
3
that's in
yards.
it. It's the drainage is why you have water.
We have the 3 foot
I
rule,
feel pretty
right? You're
confident.
supposed to have
It's
water
4 to 6
going at
feet
least
now.
6 feet.
It's 4 to 6 is big.
Yeah, so like you're supposed to have your water draining at least that far away from your basement. But I would say a second issue is grading. Because I see so many basements that like it's actually graded toward the basement instead of away from the basement. So obviously all of the water is gonna go toward the basement and then down the wall.
Yeah,
Just
negative,
by
negative
putting
grade.
dirt and stuff around the outside and grading it away.
But some of it is caused because the gutters are full, so the rain drops right here, creates this, and the
Yeah.
water sets there. So it's the drainage for the gutters and downstairs.
You got it. It is, you're not wrong in what you say, but it is inadequate drainage. And so think about that, you know, big 2,000 or 3,000 square foot roof. And the water's not getting away properly, right? So it's coming through the downspouts and maybe they don't have a drain line coming off the end, or if they do, it could be cracked or broken and it's backing up. So, you know, again, you're taking a 4-inch pipe and you're trying to put thousands of gallons of water down through there. You know, we get a 2 or 3-inch rainstorm, that's a lot of water. If it's not flowing properly, it's going to back up and it's going down around the foundation. So
That has, and maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but a question I have then with that is. Most people see like a lot of houses have put the drainage going out and the downspout goes in there and they assume it's going where it's supposed to if they don't have it checked. And if it's not, if it's broken under there, like, you know, it doesn't always pull back there. It could be a break in the line somewhere down there.
that's
So
right.
what kind of impact are we looking at if that's the case? And is there a way for them to tell without putting, you know, a camera down there and things like that?
There is, and we're gonna get into a little bit of that. We do use cameras. We want to inspect and find out what's going on with the drain lines. But a homeowner, it could be as simple as, you know, we're gonna pop the downspout adapter that goes to that drain line and put a garden hose in. And if the water's backing up, you know you have a problem, right? So, but yeah, we'll get into a little bit more about that. So as I said, you know, the next thing is what's in it for you? Why are you sitting here other than I'm interested in drainage, right? So you know, we know that it can be tough selling a home if there's a wet basement or evidence of a wet basement, which usually gets pointed out by the home inspection, or it could be a wet yard. You know, the prospective buyer comes out and they're kind of walking around, and even, you know, let's not think about spring when it's normally muddy, but middle of summer and they're like, wow, this is kind of swampy, you know, and it can be tough, right? So with our assessments, we can come in and figure out what's going on and develop a solution. And sometimes those can be inexpensive, right? It doesn't have to be you need to put a whole new drainage system in. And we do share with our customers if there's things that they can do to help alleviate that, we do. You know, we don't just stand on you need to buy a whole new system from us. So it's all about education for us, right? And then if there is a complex drainage issue, we come in. So getting back to what's in it for you, it's helping to identify those issues and then give potential solutions. So, you know, if I think about ideally, if you're a listing agent, this would be on that checklist before you enlist the house, right? Then on the other side, you know, you have a home inspector coming in. We want to partner with them. Most of the home inspectors that I've worked with don't run a camera. They're not looking down drain lines. You know, they're seeing evidence of moisture on the walls in the basement, or, you know, obviously in the yard, it's wet, and they're kind of taking notes of that. And then they're going to refer, hey, you probably need to talk to a drainage person to, you know, see what's going on here. We want to try to get in with you before that happens to look at what solutions are available. So I think, you know, again, back to what's in it for you, we can help with that. We can help with that sale, right? All right, so the question, do I really need basement waterproofing? Some of the the things that happen with a wet basement are pretty obvious, right? You can have mold, you can have health hazards, it can ruin your things. It can cause structural damage to the foundation. It's going to cause odors, musty odors throughout the home if you're getting water in the basement. And another thing that most people don't realize, it can increase your heating and cooling costs, right? So it's not efficient to have a wet basement. So then just another comment about basement waterproofing, and we'll get into a little bit about the rules around that and when they were put in place. But a lot of the basement waterproofing companies, they'll jump right to, we have to cut your floor. You know, we got to cut the concrete floor. We're going to put new perforated pipe in there, a sump pump if there's not a sump pump. And I'm going to get to what our approach is a little bit different, but that's where they go. And it's kind of you know, the fallback. And I've worked with a lot of customers that have gone to basement waterproofing companies, and we do basement waterproofing if it's needed, you know, but that's what it always is. And so that's typically pretty cost prohibitive. You know, it costs a lot of money to cut up floors and put in new pipes and put in sump pumps. So a couple points about basement waterproofing. You have negative and positive side waterproofing. So the negative side is on the inside of the wall. And that's what a lot of the companies will do. If there's a wet basement, they're going to come in and say, okay, we want to cut the floor. We want to put some perforated pipe in. We want to put a sump pump in. And they'll put some sort of vapor barrier. Usually it's painted on the inside of the wall, and then a panel. You know, you might have like a plastic panel or some kind of but what that does is once the moisture is getting through the wall, it's dropping it down to that new pipe and then taking it out, and then the sump pump takes it out. The positive side waterproofing, which usually happens during new construction, and it can happen post-construction, but it's very expensive because they're digging down around the outside of the house. But same thing, you know, you're putting that vapor barrier on the outside of the home. The solid barrier is not, you know, it's I'm going to say it's relatively new. And when I say relatively new, probably the last 20 years. You know, before that, it was the black tar that they would put on the outside, and that's been around for a long time. And I think I have a point in here later, or maybe on here, about the International Building Code. So it is code to do that, but that didn't go in place until 2000. It wasn't adopted uniformly until 2000. So although it was in practice prior to that, you know, you go back to maybe the 70s. Before the 70s, it was just kind of hit or miss. You might have it or you might not, right? So that's a little bit about basement waterproofing and positive side, negative side, whether it's inside or outside. And again, what I would say to you is that's not really eliminating the hydrostatic pressure. And when I say hydrostatic pressure, I'm talking about liquid and gravity, right? And you have wet earth pushing on the foundation walls. And when you have that, it causes cracks, you know, so
On the outside, take the pressure away.
I'm sorry.
That's where you need drainage on the outside, that's taking that water away.
That's right.
Stop the pressure.
That's right. Yeah, that's what we're here to talk about today is
The backfill material for the foundation play like a role, like if you have like gravel, like typically you wanna backfill first with gravel. correct?
yes, yeah, our opinion is you should always be using gravel around the foundation, either during new construction or if we come back to do that outside waterproofing, you want to have that. You don't want to have, you know, wet earth or earth just right up against the foundation wall.
When I go into a property and I see the bowing and notice the moisture, one of the things I suggest to them is that they have somebody professionally come in and put drainage on that wall, you know, on the outside, taking the water somewhere, because that water is trying to go somewhere and it's obviously been effective in pushing the wall.
Right.
And if they already have drains outside, it's they're probably blocked. So would that be a right assessment of thought process?
Oh, absolutely. I've seen it numerous times where, not to knock on basement waterproofing companies, because they do a lot of good. But, we see it where they want to put, carbon fiber strips or C-channel to stop that wall from shearing. But once again, to your point, you're not addressing the issue on the outside.
The solution.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing, it's the water you can't see that is doing the most damage. None of us have X-ray vision to see into the ground to see how much water is actually there. But it's there because it's pushing that wall.
And I think in this side of the state, we have the hills and all that, so we have a larger issue than maybe goes in the flat region, because that earth is trying to move.
Right.
Wherever that house is with that water.
Mhm. So here, just to go exactly what we're talking. I have two cross sections up here, and we are pitching a patented design that we have for outside waterproofing, right? And so this is on the left for the folks on the Zoom call. On the left is what's traditional, right? So you have your footer at the bottom. You can see on the right side, you have your slab, the basement floor that goes in. On the outside, we have the drain tile foundation drain that sits on top of the footer at the bottom of the foundation wall. And there's gravel down around there. And we talked just a few minutes ago, is it ideal to have gravel all the way down up to maybe a foot from the top, right? And we should, but that is relatively new concept. It hasn't been happening a lot. So in the past, we had that, so-called waterproofing, which is basically a tar on the outside of the wall, and it doesn't last. Moisture is going to get into that. Your foundation drains, if they're overwhelmed, if we don't have proper drainage from the downspouts, again, think of thousands of gallons that's coming down there, they're not equipped to handle all that water, right? So it backs up and you'll have a lot of moisture around the foundation wall. We take probes out every time we go to look at a job, and you'd be amazed. We have a 5-foot probe that I can just sink with ease, and you shouldn't be able to do that. It should be difficult to get that probe down. So on the right side, we did come up with a system that is truly waterproof. And what I mean by that, it does not allow water to get against the wall, right? So we have a panel, and then you can see several layers in here that takes that water and channels it down without hitting the wall, without allowing the wet earth to push against the wall. And then we get into our foundation drain to take that away. But again, I'm gonna tell you that the majority of the times we find that we don't even need that, right? We're typically finding an issue from the downspout drainage or something else that we don't need to go to that step.
There'd be more new construction you'd want to do that. I know you can do it after, but would that be a time to really put that in? Since it's all.
Well, the time to do this ideally is during new construction, right? So we can post-construction, but just like any other waterproofing, it gets to be expensive because you're excavating around the house. Yeah.
Do you notice the difference between like the type of like basement wall material, like board walls versus like block walls? Or like older, like.
Sandstone.
Yeah, I'm from Zor.
Yeah.
So like the basements there are like, yeah, the very old like sandstone blocks. Do you notice a difference in like the foundation material with like any of these systems, or does this go on like any type of a?
Absolutely. And what I'll say to that is just like any other building material, we've progressed, right? So I can't speak much to the poured foundation walls. I don't know if Drew has any comments on that, but as far as the old, even barnstone, or you know what I mean, the concrete block walls are going to be better, right? And we'll talk a little bit about drain pipe material and some of the stuff that's older and why it's not as good. So yes, over time, I would say that things have progressed. Not to say that it can't be remedied if you have let's say a barnstone foundation or something like that. There's things that can happen, but I would say that it's not as robust.
Yeah.
And also, I think that our desire for what we want to see basements used for has changed. People want it as a living space now,
Mhm.
and it wasn't that way 1970s.
Right.
You know, that's a relatively new thing.
Yeah. So just, talked a little bit about basement waterproofing, and then I wanted to talk about our approach, right? So number one, we listen. When we go into a customer's house or property, that's the first thing we're doing. We want to hear the issues that they've been having, or if we're working with a realtor, what are you thinking or seeing? So that's the starting point. We don't go in and jump to conclusions. It's not good for anybody. So we're listening, active listening, and then we're probably going to ask some questions, in combination with that. So then we'll use our tools to do that root cause analysis. We're looking for what's driving that moisture, and then what's the appropriate solution to remedy that. For us, it's not ever the same. We don't go in and say, well, we know we got to cut the floor. We know that we have to put new drain lines in. It can be a combination of things, and it doesn't always have to be a whole new system, right? I'm not personally a fan of doing patchwork or repair work, because we can't really apply our lifetime warranty to that. But if it is something that maybe the downspout elbow underground is cracked, and they have good drain lines going out beyond that, but that elbow's cracked and it needs to be replaced, let's do it. Not a problem. And that's a relatively inexpensive fix. So like I said, once we identify the issue, we develop that root cause. It's tailored to every property house. They're all different, it's and then as far as budget goes, like I just said, we try to work as much as we can with the customer. We're always gonna recommend the most robust solution. We want to back that with a lifetime warranty. But in my experience, even in aerospace, you talk about quality and budget, and my opinion is quality should be king, but it's not. Budget is always king. So we try to work with everybody. If there are things that the homeowner can do themselves that we're seeing, we let them know. We don't hide that, right? So if we're seeing a gutter that's full and it's causing overrun, we're going to tell them, hey, you clear this up, and everything can be done in phases too. It's not one and done. You look at, if I do this, does it fix it? If not, let's try this, right? So we do a lot of that. A little bit about stormwater management in Ohio, at least. So prior to 1940, the stormwater drain lines were tied directly into the sewer system. And, that goes through a treatment plant. There was a decision made that, hey, we're overwhelming the sewer plants, right? So that has to be separate. Yeah. You'll be surprised. I mean, we still see some newer homes that I don't know how they did it, but they're tied in, so
Some
most,
people still allow.
yeah. Yeah, new infrastructure, they require separate stormwater management lines. Those do go into our waterways. So we also want to educate people, especially those with pools, right? If you're putting an overflow from your pool into your stormwater management, you're putting chemicals out there. And I think it was last year, there was a commercial on the radio, and there was a guy singing about, we're harming the wildlife, fish and things like that if we're polluting. But it's kind of common sense. So even though not all systems have been retrofitted, we can work with that and figure out what's the right thing to do. All right, so I've got a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo up here, which is near and dear to me. I do have a law degree, so I get a lot of questions from people of, what am I allowed to do? What am I not allowed to do? And the simple answer to that is, Ohio has the reasonability approach. So it's gone to the Supreme Court. And there's a theory in tort law that talks about what would a reasonable person do? And I have a case up here on this slide in Broadview Heights where a condo developer in the 70s was putting this place in, and they basically flooded out a neighborhood, right? And this was millions of dollar lawsuit, and the homeowners won, you know. So, like I said, the court looks at, hey, if we're going to mitigate drainage on this property, are we putting the other property at peril by doing so? Would a reasonable person do that? Right. Um, so I have a couple of examples up here, and I guess, the easiest couple for me are, am I purposely doing this? Right? Am I purposely draining my property stormwater to somebody else's property? You shouldn't do that. It's just not right, so it's not reasonable. The other one is, let's say that I have 10 acres and the back corner of my property is getting kind of flooded. I want to be able to use that. So I put drainage infrastructure in place that now floods my neighbor out, floods their basement. The court's going to look at that and say, that's not reasonable. You gotta come up with something different. And there's always a solution. There is. We've worked on properties that are literally in a bowl, right? It's uphill all the way around. And you can do something. I mean, water doesn't flow uphill naturally. Gravity doesn't work that way, but there are solutions, and we've put those in place. So I guess, just to tag on to that, we don't ever purposely put drain water onto another person's property unless there's infrastructure there. Sometimes in a development, there might be a stormwater management pipe, an 18-inch pipe or 24-inch pipe or something. And if we can get approval from an HOA or whatever it is, we can tie into that underground. That would be the only time that we're really directing water onto another person's property. So, impact of poor and inadequate drainage. We talked a little bit about this, like how much rain do we get in Northeast Ohio, right? How much runoff are we getting per 1,000 square feet? And that's kind of what I'm talking about here. So just a little bit more, it's not just roofs, it's not just driveways, deck, same thing. Some people have pretty big decks, and if you don't have drainage, that water's coming through the boards under the deck and migrating back towards the house, unless you have real good grading under there that's pushing it out away. So, just to highlight, if it's not managed, it can do a lot of damage, structural, all the things that we kind of pointed out in the beginning. And I talk about the number one root cause that you mentioned. It's broken or inadequate downspout drainage. That's what we see, and that's what we're using our cameras to identify. So we did mention older homes. A lot of them have the downspout drains, and what I mean by that is the downspout coming off the gutter, tied directly into the footer. And if you remember that cross section that I showed you, footer drains are not equipped to take all that. So if that's the case, we come in and correct that and take it away. We don't want it tied into the footer drain. A lot of older homes, and I'm going to say newer homes too, don't have the correct material for drain lines. And we're going to look at some pictures that I have in here of different materials and what's appropriate. In our area, there's a material called SDR35, which is a PVC. It's a smooth wall. That's the most appropriate for what we have. It's rigid enough that it's not going to bow too much underground. And what I mean by bow is you're kind of getting a section where it'll sag. If you get a section that sags, you're going to get standing water in there and it can freeze and crack. So we want to have pipe that's rigid enough to keep a flow downhill to get the water going away from the property. Um, and again, you know, we've beat to death that foundation repairs is expensive. You know, we can address that, improve the drainage. And not to say that once you have foundation damage, you have to redo the whole foundation. You don't. You can make a correction and prevent it from getting worse, you know, and that's a lot of what we do. So, but we do use the SDR 35 that I mentioned for all of our applications. That's why we're able to put a lifetime warranty on our projects. They have done life testing on that. It's over 100 years that stuff lasts. So, all right. So here's some of the drain pipe that is commonly used in the past and still commonly used. So clay tile is not really used in new construction. And the issue with that is it will crack under heavy weights. It butts together at the joints, so it's not overlapping, which will allow root intrusion, sediment intrusion, things like that. These pictures that I have are from jobs that we did, right? So I pulled this out, and that elbow was right up against the house where the downspout comes in, and it's just completely filled with roots. And so the water coming off the roof is trying to get into that in a way, but it's not. It's just going right down around the foundation. It's backing up. Then we have corrugated. This one's super common. Builders love it because it's cheap. You can get 100-foot roll probably for the price of, I don't know, 20 feet of SDR 35 PVC. And most people that are building a home, they don't care about drainage. They care about pretty colors, countertops, you know, things like that. Am I getting a fireplace? And then they find out, you know, we've gone to several homes that are only a couple of years old and they have drainage issues and they have corrugated pipe. Something happened, right? And you can see this one, again, cracked out, roots got into it, and it's just not allowing that flow. So, and then there's a PVC. It's a Schedule 20 or an SDR 20. I see a lot of I'm going to say non-drainage pros. There's other trades that will dabble in drainage. Landscapers do sometimes, even plumbers for outdoor drainage, and they'll use this stuff. Again, it's cheaper, but it will bow. It's going to flex underground, and it does crack easy. Good example of this one, we had a gentleman in Green that spent a boatload on French drains in his backyard and used the contractor used SDR 20. It failed. It failed in 18 months. And he went back to talk to this contractor. Contractor wouldn't do anything. So we came and put in new SDR 35 in the combination of surface drains as opposed to French drains, which are perforated pipes underground. And I think that was 2.5 or 3 years ago. And I keep in contact with all of my customers. No issues. He's happy.
What's the difference in cost between the SDR 35 and the Schedule 20?
I don't know what Schedule 20 is even running at right now because we don't use it. You know what I
I'm
mean?
just curious because, like, why would somebody, unless it's ignorance, use that if it's a slight difference in cost to me, but if there is a huge cost, then I can see. Is it a knowledge issue or just a cost issue that people?
I think it's a combination of both. You know, when you look at a home builder, they don't specialize in drainage. They don't. You know, they're where they can, they're going to, unless you're working with a custom home builder and you're picking everything, they're going to cut corners. They will.
You are to do that, and then they hide it. Some. Yeah. You gotta check your projects.
And so then we get to the SDR 35, which is what we use. we back that up. Like I said, it's rated to last over 100 years. And so we use that on all applications. Typically, it's 4-inch for most houses. If we have to go to a 6-inch, we do. But again, sometimes that's overkill. The other thing that we'll look at is the gutter size. And I run into a lot of customers that are talked into getting oversized gutters. And the question becomes, well, if your drainage is not working underground, your oversized gutters aren't doing anything for you. You know, that water is just continuing to back up and go down around the foundation.
Can you adjust for that? Like when you go out to a house and let's say somebody says, hey, I want the larger gutters to get the water off quicker, that sort of thing. Can you adjust your drainage to meet that flow rate?
Yeah, absolutely. So the flow rate for a 4-inch PVC pipe is about 10,000 gallons an hour, right? So you look at, or we look at the size of the roof, the volume of runoff, right? And you can plan for the worst, you know, that 100-year storm.
Yeah.
And so, again, for a average home, we never have to go to a 6-inch pipe. And I see a lot of average size homes that have the oversized gutters that, in my opinion, don't need them. You know, if you're looking at 2,500 square foot roof, you don't need an oversized gutter. You just don't, you know, but
And you guys don't deal with the gutter side, you strictly just deal with the drainage below.
yeah, we're drainage. So, we don't, the only time that I will do anything with, or Drew with a gutter or downspout, if it's just something small to help with the job, if we need to put a new, you know, a new section on, we'll do that. We don't get into replacing gutters, downspouts. It's just, we stick in our lane, which is drainage, stormwater management.
Can you take pictures for clients to see what you've done in the earth so they can see? Because once it's filled, they can't see it.
Right.
If you
Yes.
provide them,
Yep. And we will provide a map of where the lines are going. So that down the road, you know, if they're doing some kind of landscaping or something, they know, hey, here's where the pipes are.
does that get also submitted to the county for their records at all? Or does it
No,
need to? I know like septics, they have to and
Right.
stuff, so I just was curious.
Yeah.
It'd be a smart thing if they did that because so many people.
They
do that
don't.
stuff.
Right.
yeah. Yeah, actually, it's surprising if you go onto the county websites and you look at the stormwater infrastructure, it's not accurate. You know, we go into developments all the time. St. James is a good one in the north side of North Canton that they show on the site. There's stormwater drains along the curb, and they're not there. You know, we'll run the camera, and I've talked to a couple of the gentlemen that work out there. And he's like, yeah, it is what it is. So we're counting on being able to tie into something, and it's not there. So we've got to figure out something else. But
Yeah, we were in Monroe Falls last summer and actually had one of the inspectors out there and. At the back of one of the properties was a big catch basin, you know, and a lateral line running through there and. He's like, I'm pretty sure we don't even know this exists back here. And he went
Right.
back and checked his, they didn't know.
Yeah, I'd rather see us correct those issues.
Yeah.
It would solve a lot more problems.
so just a little bit more about us. You know, I encourage you have a card, take a look at our site. We are pretty highly reviewed. Proud of that in Northeast Ohio. We have over 50 reviews on Google that are all 5-star. I don't have anything less. Better Business Bureau, again, highly rated. And you know, I don't know if you pursue customers to give you reviews, but it can be hard. You know, you really have to do a nice job to get somebody to put in writing, hey, you did a good job. And unfortunately, there are people that take advantage of, I didn't like something, so I'm going to give you a negative rating. And we haven't had any of that. We have worked with Angie's a lot. So 8-time Super Service Award. We just got another one for 2023. Yelp, neighborhood next door, we're a neighborhood fave on the Nextdoor app. And like I said at the beginning, we support basically all of Northeast Ohio between one of our locations. And then just, again, to wrap up, we want to partner with you, when you're either going to list or represent a buyer, let us help. If you think there's water issues, we can come in, we can run cameras, we can identify what the issues are and hopefully help you close that sale,
Question, is like, to do like a consultation like that, what would that cost the buyer to have you guys come in and like just do like your investigative work to kind of diagnose the problem? Like, what would that cost?
Yeah, so our normal price, and we're I'm gonna say overly competitive for camera work. Like if you were to call I'm just gonna say Roto-Rooter and say, can you come out and run a camera on my drain lines? Number one, and ask them the cost on the phone, they won't tell you.
Right.
They want to be there. And my experience has been if there's standing water in those pipes, they'll tell you they can't put a camera in it, which it just shocks me because the cameras are made to go underwater. They jump right to there's water in that pipe, you have to replace it. Okay, so I've heard numbers of $500 to do a camera inspection. We typically charge about $150. And it's something that, I mentioned to Marcy when I talked to her a couple of months ago. Happy to partner with you guys. If you want to start getting us in on the inspections, we can do something with that price. The other thing that we do is if somebody does an assessment with us, number one is satisfaction guaranteed. If I can't figure out what's going on, I'm not going to charge you, right? I'm not going to come out and say, I don't know, can I have my money? We don't do that. But we then take that. So, if a customer pays me $150 to do a camera inspection, and then they proceed with our scope of work, we provide a quote, we then rebate that back off cost of the job. So,
So what would happen, like say, correct me if I'm wrong, so we include in our offers, somebody we say, hey, we want to do also. Camera the drains, or whatever the outside drains. And we would tell our client that's $150. Now, they go through, they close, but they can't do anything until after they close, but you've given them a quote on that work. Even if it's 30 days later, because sometimes they don't take possession until 30 days later, they would be able to take that $150 towards the quote and do that work once they take possession. Is that?
yeah, so our normal process is to provide validity to the quotes for 30 days. The material has not been fluctuating that much. So absolutely, we would work with somebody up front if they say, hey, I don't think I'm going to take possession for 60 days. We can make exceptions. The normal rule of thumb for us is we provide a quote for 30 days. If I give them a quote in 2023 and they come back in 2024.
Just for your information, like I would say, for those that you're dealing with that with somebody who's in transaction process, right, 45 days would be best for them because it takes 30 days a lot of times to close.
Sure.
VA sometimes a little longer than 30. That's just to give you some feedback.
Yeah.
Clients who are in a transaction.
Yeah, and absolutely. We'd be happy to work with that.
I have people who deal with this and then they want to put in egress. Do you guys deal with anything with egress? Or do you have companies that you work closely with to do? Because sometimes those drains running in that side, but we're seeing more people, and especially because they want to count square footage in a basement, that they need to build egress. Do you guys do anything with that?
With
Building an egress?
Yeah,
window
so
or something?
for instance, like, a house that already has, a basement was never designed to be living quarters, or like he's saying, to be able to claim that as livable space. So putting an egress window in, or, a door or walkout or something like that. I have personally had to deal with that. I don't know if you have.
I'm running into it more but then there's drain lines that run inside that.
Right.
So they want those moved and they wanna put an egress, but there aren't a lot of people I come across who do egress.
Yeah.
And so wondered if you guys, then even if you partner there, because it is becoming a real question that I
Mhm.
get from people, who does the egress? We wanna do that here. We don't wanna buy it unless we can, but I don't really hear them too often. So that might be, somebody to find that would be another reason to go with you guys if they could. Actually, just a thought.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Is the warranty transferable? I
Yes.
remember you said like the
Yeah.
warranty does
It
transfer.
is, yeah, it goes to the new homeowner, so. Just a little bit more about the warranty real quick is material workmanship. They have to either maintain with us, so we're not a company that says you need to pay me every year to maintain the system. They either maintain with us and we come out and do those service calls, or they show evidence that they've maintained it, and we can tell, right? We can tell if we go out 3-5 years from now and nobody's ever flushed that out. And the convenient thing with our system is at every downspout, there's a clean out. All you have to do is unscrew that cap and put your hose in. We will typically bring out a hydrojet and blow it out. But that's the qualification for the warranty. And then again, and it's all in our terms and conditions, what it covers, what it doesn't cover. Obviously, if they're running heavy machinery in the yard and it cracks the pipe, it's not covered.
So how often do you expect them to wash it out through the?
Well, once a year. Yeah.
Okay. And because I know you do other things with drains, I'm assuming, what about, somebody has an existing drain that runs underneath their house, okay? So underneath their basement and it goes out to the street, but they keep getting roots. Do you guys provide where you would come out and replace that drain? Is that something you guys do? Or do you do anything where you come in and they coat from the inside out? Do you guys do anything like that? Or is this strictly drains from downspouts and stuff?
Yeah, it's more of the stormwater management on the outside. We don't have a machine to put an insert on those drains like you're talking about under the foundation. I mean, we have a snake. We have I kind of shy away from that a little bit. I don't want to get into that end of the business. Because yeah,
You realize that's huge right now, because all the drains are filled.
right.
And so that's the real reason why we should be asking somebody